everybody. I found this article entitled 8 Secrets to Take Your Marriage from Meh to Magical by Brad Browning. In this article, his 8 secrets are for women to try on men. I'm spinning it by talking to men about how they can use them to improve their marriages. So he's writing this for women for men, and I'm spinning it around and using it to talk to men about how we can improve our marriage. Now, this is not an advice column. I'm not giving you guys any advice. I'm just talking about this article. You know, I don't know what your marriage is like. I don't know what you're like. I don't know what your skill level is like. I don't know what you're capable of doing. So I can't give you any advice. I can just talk about an article that I read. If you find any of this stuff useful, good. I'm trying to be useful, right? But I'm not giving you advice. I'm really not telling you what to do. One of the opening lines in the article is, marriages are rarely a full-time fairy tale. And anybody that's been married, you know that's the truth. Dating someone and living with someone is as different as apples and oranges. Living with someone and being married to someone is also as different as apples and oranges. There are just vast differences between the two. And so it's kind of important to think about some of those differences before we even start talking about this article. So, you know, like in any relationship, and when I use the word relationship, I'm using it much more broadly than most people. You know, you have a relationship with your vehicle, you got a relationship with your partner, you got a relationship with your job, you got a relationship with your children. But any relationship, we habituate. That is, the car is brand new. We drop it off the floor, and while we still smell the newness of the interior and all that, oh, it's a great car. But then after we drive it for about 6 months to a year, the newness wears off and we habituate to it. And now that new car that we were so proud of, we begin to look around to see if there's anything better, or we might lose a little bit of gratitude for what we have. That happens in all relationships. And if you jump from relationship to experience that high, that's called a hedonic treadmill, hedonism, driven toward pleasure and away from pain. So in relationships, we have to be able to manage that period when the shine wears off. You know, when it's not such a new item anymore, when we don't see much mystery in it anymore. That's a natural occurrence in all relationships. And a lot of people start having trouble right there, because when the shine wears off, we also start to see differences and problems with our partners. And we know, we start experiencing more conflict. And as a therapist, we know that when a relationship is coming to an end, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. When those 4 things show up, those are called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You got about 48 months before that relationship is going to be over. And we know that that's over 80% accurate. John Gottman up in Washington figured that out. It's important to kind of know these things so that the first thing that Brown in his article said we needed to do is women needed to set realistic expectations with men. And I'm going to say to men, it's important to know how men and women are different so that you can set realistic expectations. Let me say this about differences. Wherever you're different with your partner, that's where you're going to have conflict. And I couldn't figure out better differences between men and women if I tried. Let's just look at the sex strategy of men and women, how different that is. It's as different as our anatomy. Now, men, we typically want to have sex fast and with as many partners as possible. I'm thinking about evolutionarily now, right? To get our DNA to the next level. And women want to have sex with the man they want to be close to. And it's a generalization, but it's in the evolution, it's there. So bear with me. All right. So that sets us up for differences. You know, and then we get back to this hedonic treadmill. You've been seeing somebody for a little while, It ain't new anymore. And so we kind of driven to move on beyond the relationship, and we have to manage that. We have to we have to kill our crushes. You're at the gym, you look over, you see baby in the spandex and the new tennis shoes, and she looking good to go. You gotta figure out a way to remember that everybody's a mess up close so that you don't blow your thing, right? But anyway, these sex differences, right? It pits us in conflict, and we have to try to understand that in order to set realistic expectations on the relationship. I'm not saying we need to cheat, but I'm saying that we're going to have some conflict around that, and we got to manage it. That's what I was talking about in that last video, or one of my previous videos, soft skills. You need to have some skills around this in order to manage. Okay, now the second one he said to women was, understand that you need to express love differently. Now remember, he's talking to women about how they need to express love differently to men. But I'm going to say men need to learn how to express love differently to women also, right? Because I deal with a lot of conflicts, right? A lot of couples come in upset because I want to work and provide, and she wants my attention. She wants to communicate. She wants to be in close proximity to me, and I want to go out and work. Just the way we're different, right? And so she will start a conflict, or I will get into a conflict, and she'll want me to spend more time with her. And the first thing I'll say is, "You see that car you driving? You see them clothes in the closet? You see the house we live in? That's why I'm not spending more time with you." But I could be abandoning her through that. I could be. But the other thing I'm doing is I'm just missing her. Because, currencies are interesting, right? Currencies only work if the people accept them, if it's a currency that they want. Like, you can't spend rubles in the United States. You got to go to Germany. You got to go to Russia to spend rubles, right? That's where they accept it. So you could be offering a love currency that your partner doesn't value. And the only way you know what's valuable is by talking, getting below the surface, like we said in one of the videos, right? So we got to learn how to express love differently. You may be, she bring up something, and you are wondering why she's not complimenting you on what you're doing. Well, you may be presenting her something. It's cool, but you're presenting her something that's not valuable to her. Right? And so, it happens in all relationships too. If the baby is crying and he wants a bottle and you give him a play toy, he bats that down. I don't want that. I want a bottle. I want something to eat. Right? So these things come up in relationships. There's no reason to get excited about that. But the successful mother, the successful relationship partner is attuned to the other person. See, when we love people, a lot of times we love people in a way that's good for us instead of in a way that's good for them. Communicate. Here's the next thing he said to her. Communicate what you really want from him. So I would say to men, turn down your defensiveness, so that you can hear what the complaint is. Because the complaint is telling you something very valuable. And if we could turn down the defensiveness, we could be curious rather than defensive, and we could learn rather than win. And there's a much better chance that we could change things. And I know some of you just have had it with conflict in relationships, but if you kill the conflict, you kill the relationship. Remember, the baby cries because something's wrong in the relationship. They need a diaper change. They need a bottle. They need to be picked up. They want some attention. That's the reason why they cry. Conflict takes the place of crying as we get older. The conflict is trying to direct your attention to something that's wrong in a relationship or something that needs to be fixed. Most couples, in order to have a successful relationship, need to have more conflict, not less. And a conflict is simply a stated difference. If you don't say anything, that's a resentment. If you state something, that's an interpersonal conflict. And at that point, you got to control your behavior. Not after you feel insulted, but the moment you have a difference with your partner, you got to realize that you're in a conflict. That's all part of setting realistic expectations. And the other thing about the conflict, in a conflict, you'll find out the most important things you need to know faster than you will sitting around a person for a long time. You will find out during the conflict. So the conflict is really important if you can turn down the defensiveness. And if you could turn down cross complaints, the cross complaint is she'll complain about you and you'll say, well, you did this. You bought the car back with no gas in it, or you didn't take the laundry out of the washer, or you cross complain, right? Striking that down. That's that defensiveness, right? Because the complaint sometimes is critical and it's hard to take it. That's why you got to be in shape. And you got to have skill. Part of the skill is self-regulation. And by managing yourself during the conflict, when the conflict starts, that's how you can use the conflict constructively. Now, remember, you damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't say anything, you got a resentment. Enough resentments build up, you drift off away from each other. If you do say something, it could spiral out of control. But it's better. Avoidance is not a good strategy all the time. That's not the best strategy. Because you need to feel safe enough to turn to each other and say what's wrong. And again, you need to have more conflict than you have in order to have a good relationship. All right, the next thing Brown said was, show him how much you love and appreciate him. Men, we can do the same thing now, but the only way that works is if you're using a currency that your partner appreciates. Like you could go out and buy her all the clothes in the world, a big car, big house, all of that. She might not appreciate that. It might be something else she wants. She might just want you to hold her hand while you're walking down the street. She might want you just to spend more time with her. Now, all that other stuff is good. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying that if you're thirsty and I bring you back a loaf of bread, it could be freshly baked. You still thirsty. You might push that away. Not that it's not a good loaf of bread, but you just need something else. And the only way you find that out is communicating in a way that gets below the surface to get to what the needs are. And you want to, just like he's suggesting to her to try to make you feel important, you also want to make her feel important. Now, here's the interesting thing about it. I have to learn how to make her feel important in a way that is valuable to her, not to me. Now, the fifth one, right? He said, keep working for his affections. Oh, man. How many people do I know in relationships that get to that stage where they just turn everything off? They so used to the relationship, they just going through the motions. Not just in your relationship with your partner. What about on the job? Where you're just going through the motions. Life has lost meaning. You just, I don't even want to be here anymore. We have to keep working. Most of us are too doggone romantic. We think that we just going to meet somebody and it's going to be cool forever and we're just going to walk off into the sunset. And that we don't have to change. We don't have to work. We don't have to, try anymore. That we can just phone it in. Well, any situation to get boring. And if, we have mirror neurons, right? If I do something, the other person will do it. If I'm just phoning it in, she starts just phoning it in. If I don't have any enthusiasm, any vigor, any zest for what I'm doing, I need to check and see what's going on. I need to talk about this, right? I got to still work for her affection. If you notice, in a marriage, it's interesting because what I'm trying to figure out now is how could I rendezvous with my wife so she doesn't see what I got on? She knows every outfit I got, right? And when we go out, I'm dressing right next to her. There ain't really no excitement in that, right? I like to rendezvous with her where she doesn't get to see what I got on. I'm the new dude when I walk in. I ain't very good at it, but that's what I'm trying to do. Anyway, laugh with him. That was number 6. That's what he said, laugh with him. We sometimes we let so many resentments build up and so much stress build up that we forget that mammals de-stress through play. We de-stress through having a good time. So I would say, men, she's getting advice to to laugh with you and play with you. I would say the same thing is true for us. You know, here's a big thing. Try to avoid becoming a grumpy ass old man. Create some, okay, so 7 was create some dedicated one-on-one time. Yeah. Get off my phone. Get off the internet. Get away from the TV. Set something up where we go out together. That's all a part of play. Change the environment, right? A little bit. Do some things that you don't do all the time. And I'm not talking about spending a whole lot of money. I'm talking about where you're focusing your attention. In any relationship that's important to you, whether it's your car, your kids, or your wife, you got to spend some time focusing your attention on them. Dedicated, focused attention. The problem with that is if we can't get positive attention, negative attention will do. And you never really want to be in a relationship with somebody that's thriving on negative attention. Give them some attention so that they don't have to get your attention in devious, underhanded, painful ways. Don't make people work too hard for your attention that you care about. And 8 to the women was, tell him that you love him. Now, you know, it's a lot of fake game going around. You know, the Mac was filmed here in Oakland where I am, so brothers walked away from that thinking they was pimps and all that kind of stuff. And so telling somebody that you love them is real hard for many men, right? Because we got all these fake beliefs and myths in our head and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes it can be hard for us to say that. So my question is, how would you express that you loved her without touching her? What would you do? You got to be creative now. Maybe you express it non-verbally. Maybe you express it through some kind of action other than just trying to go out and provide everything. You know, because remember, we can miss people by, providing. Providing can be a way of avoiding, there's this thing called proximal abandonment. I'm there, I'm in the house, but I'm not interacting with you. You know, and try not to just pay attention to her when you want sex. Don't be afraid to love her, or be afraid, but have courage. And remember, courage is not the absence of fear. You might be afraid to be vulnerable. You might be afraid to say, I love you, but do it anyway. It's good for you. You don't want to have a lot of negative thoughts and a lot of negative emotions running through your body. It'll kill you. It'll take your life faster. Right? Stay positive. Like usual, this article is in the description below. Get down in the comments and let me know what you think. Till next time.